Off original MSRP, plus over 30 vehicles priced under $15,000 and 120 to choose from. We are overstocked with Ford, Chevy, Nissan, Hyundai, Toyota, and more. The 72-hour program car sale only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Shop us in person or online at PremierTroy.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
Good morning and welcome to Today in L.A. I'm Mike Amos, he's Bill Rice, and calling in this morning, we've got a caller from Grayton Beach, Florida. How you doing this morning, sir?
Morning. I saw where there was a line on the Troy BYU game, so that's a good sign. I said 14.5 yesterday on the show is what I thought it might be, and it ended up starting at 14.5. I think it's down to 14 now.
That was a good job.
Yeah.
I said 12.5, so you
It's already moving. It's already moving. Troy, it's funny now. Let me tell you, Troy's pretty good in this situation. And now I've been to some blowouts before too. But in this situation, where you have speed, this is a great BYU team, but they can't run with Troy. I'm telling you right now, Troy is faster than they are. And if speed counts, Mike, Troy's be in it all the way. What do you think?
Well, it's just like everybody told me yesterday, Troy has Alabama opening up for them, and they're the closing act on ESPN on Saturday night. Alabama plays at 6 o'clock against Missouri on ESPN, and then Troy will finish the night at 9:15 against BYU.
So
that's going to be about 6.5 hours of television watching.
that is going to be fantastic. You mean Alabama starts at 6 instead of 7?
Yeah, Alabama starts at 6 against Missouri on ESPN, and then Troy will be the game
After them?
following the Alabama-Missouri game at 9:15.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you don't get any better than this now. Exposure-wise, how much money would this cost?
couldn't buy it.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, immediately after our football game, Bill Rice Jr. with Alabama and Missouri, our TV goes to Provo, Utah, where we're going to be bringing the audience right here on ESPN, the mothership. We're bringing BYU and Troy University.
2 weeks in a row on the mothership.
So it should be a great week for Troy University, and with that kind of exposure.
I got a feeling the Alabama game's going to be over at halftime.
Well, I don't know. I watched his deal yesterday, and he was talking about how good Missouri was on defense.
Saw that too.
So what do you think?
You got Mac Jones winning the quarterback job, so that's I guess big news.
Mac Jones, that tells me that they're not very good at quarterback. I hate to tell you, that tells me that Alabama can't win a national championship with Mac Jones at quarterback. No way.
I have to disagree with my esteemed TV show founder.
Is Mac Jones better than the 4 we got at Troy, Mike?
Yeah, he's better than all of them.
All he does, no, maybe as far as handing off, is Mac Jones going to beat you throwing the football?
You didn't see all those throws he made against Auburn, even though they threw 2 for touchdowns the other way. I mean, the guy took tremendous hits. I mean, got rid of the ball, showed poise. I mean,
it's a lot of pressure on him now. He comes.
He threw for 300 yards against Michigan in the bowl game too. I mean, he's not horrible.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can win a national championship with Mac Jones. That's our topic today.
Hey, listen, Alabama won a national championship with Greg McElroy. They won a national championship with Jake. I can't remember his last name. They won a national championship with a sophomore, Jay Barker. They can win a national championship with Mac.
You've got a pretty good
point, good rebuttal.
Exactly, yeah. and while we're watching Alabama and Missouri, we'll be getting ready for a 9 o'clock kickoff where the Trojans of Troy University will do battle with the BYU Cougars. Should be cold. Not only will you be a mile high or more, it's going to be very cold out there. In fact, it's not crazy. It's crazy kind of cold. You might even get snow.
That might hurt Troy's passing game because I can tell you as a former B-team quarterback that the football gets a little slicker when it gets cold. It's harder to grip it, and Troy's not going to be used to that.
Yeah. Rice is becoming a superstar on this show.
I heard the Church of Latter-day Saints of Troy will be opening late on Sunday morning.
Well, and Mark Salmon, who runs Troy University's whole system, as far as the physical aspects of it, from the physical plan on down. Mark Salmon's been a good loyal Trojan for a long time. He's got to take a stand. I'm just telling you, I hate to say this, Mark. Somebody needs to get him to call in, but he's not going to be for Troy. Hey, he's going to be for the church, and rightfully so. I'd be for the church too, wouldn't you?
That's a tough call.
If the Baptists were playing them, I'd be for the Baptists, wouldn't you? Or would you?
So you'd be for Baylor?
Yeah, I'd be for. If Troy plays Baylor, I'm gonna be for Baylor, the Bears, just like I am for the Sanford Bulldogs. I'm gonna be for those Baptists.
Did he go to BYU? If I went to BYU, I might pull for BYU, but otherwise, I'm pulling for Troy.
All right, Mike, let me ask you a real personal question this morning.
We got game time weather in Provo on Saturday. Sunny, high of 71, low of 47.
47 degrees.
At 9:15, 8:15 their time, that's probably going to be in the 50s.
It's going to be in the 50s. It's going to be cold. Do you know anybody rich enough that's going out there, Bill? Have you talked to anybody that's rich enough to go out or real ready to take?
Well, the guy that's sitting to my right's probably rich enough to go out there.
Well, let me ask you.
I talked to a good buddy of mine from Birmingham yesterday, and another friend of ours.
Is he going?
Tickets, and he's going out there, Philip Grice.
Oh, well, he's definitely rich enough to go out there.
Phil Grice or Steve Grice?
Philip.
He runs
The accountant.
up in Birmingham.
Yeah, he is. He's a Warren Ader guy, great Trojan. And let me just say this: it's going to be a great trip, especially for the folks that leave tomorrow or leave today. Go out there and make a trip out of it. Now, Mike, you worked in Jackson Hole, I want to say, at one time, didn't you?
I didn't know that.
Oh no, Camille worked the whole summer.
I know, but you've been to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Is that right?
I stayed out there a couple weeks.
How far is that from Provo, Utah? Give me a deal on that. How far?
We already looked that up. It's 5.5 hours.
Oh gosh, that's a long ways. I would think now how far it is. Now let's put a little bit of local touch in here. Logan, Utah, is the home of Utah State, and is former Troy athletic director is in Logan. I wonder who he'll be rooting for here, Mike.
I would imagine Troy, because that's Utah State and BYU are rivals.
Yeah.
I got it. Hartwell?
Yeah, John Hartwell. That's not any good. I'll pick it up.
he was the tallest athletic director Troy's ever had. He was about 6'7".
And he stayed fairly close to some of the people here at Troy, and he's right up the street. In fact, when Johnny Williams and I made that trip out there a few years ago, it was right before the Winter Olympics, and boy, it was beautiful country. We went through the Tetons, and and it was in the middle of June, and it was snowing like you wouldn't believe. We drove up to the mountains, opened the door, and it almost filled up with snow. It was snowing so hard.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, it was near 100 in Denver, Colorado, and then 2 days later, it was in the 30s and it was snowing.
Well, it's a beautiful setting. Now, let me ask this, Mike, and I was going to use that, how I love to use that word personal. Let me ask you a personal question. The stadium, it's up in the mountains, and outside the stadium, there are two places that I can figure that you might be sitting on a mountain watching the game. Name them.
Sitting on a mountain?
Yeah, sitting on a mountain looking down on the stadium.
Well, I mean, there's mountains above the stadium that have the big Y on it.
All right, okay. Now that and I don't know if people sit up there or not, but you're right. It's got the big Y. Out west, everywhere you go, to identify a town, they've got they've got the initial on it. Did you know that?
No.
Oh yeah. You go to Nevada or any of those places.
So you can see it from an airplane, or?
Well, you can probably see it from an airplane, but when you're driving down the road, you look over to the right, and there's a U over there. That means
you're in that town.
Yeah, or it has the actual the name of the town. It's because it's so mountainous.
Well, Hollywood has the most famous sign.
That is a very famous sign. But tell me the other one, Mike, where you can watch the football game from the mountain.
From the mountain?
Yeah.
The Sun Bowl has.
That's exactly right. Hey, Rice beat you on it, Mike. Rice beat you at the Sun Bowl, and that town is, gosh, I know it well.
Tempe, maybe Tempe, Arizona?
No, not Tempe. No, it's in New Mexico.
El Paso, Texas.
El Paso, Texas. That's it. El Paso, Texas, home of the Sun Bowl. A lot of people watch the game from the mountain, and I'm thinking you can do that at Brigham Young, but I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But it's a beautiful setting, no question about it.
How many people is Brigham Young going to let in the stadium? Do we know? Not many, I don't think.
I don't know, but we're just happy to be there.
Provo, Utah has a population of 113,000.
Yeah, it's a high-tech area, Mike. A lot of high-tech business is out there, and of course the Mormon Church is located in Salt Lake City.
That's about the size of a little bigger than Tuscaloosa and Auburn.
And of course,
elevation is 4,551 feet.
Wow. All right, so it's not quite a mile. Is that right? Not quite a mile high. Denver's a mile high.
Yep.
And you tell me Provo's not a mile high?
That's what.
How about Salt Lake? How high is Salt Lake City?
I'll have to look.
Now, when we
were, most of the big towns are always in valleys usually.
When we were out there, Rice, Johnny and I got in the car. I'd never been to the Grand Canyon, and we drove to the Grand Canyon, and it was about 3 hours of pure prairie, or just all you saw was cactus.
What was the Grand Canyon like?
Well, I got there, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful, and I never seen anything like it. 15 minutes later, I was ready to go back home. I said, I've seen it, and that's exactly the way I looked at it. But the way to go is to go out there and take time and go down to the bottom of the canyon and take that ride that they have, a horseback ride.
Well, I've talked to people
all
that
kinds
say
of things.
That when they see it, it just almost freaks them out. I mean, your body and mind is not prepared for a hole that big. And it just really does a whammy on you.
You know, we watched the game last night in Las Vegas, and probably no more beautiful view from the air in the world than flying into
the Strip.
Yeah, flying into.
I've never been. Michael, you go all the time.
Las
Michael
Vegas.
goes every other weekend.
Oh yeah, they love him.
I've been 7 times now.
Yeah, they love him. Like they listen.
They don't love me. They love my wife and I going to all these restaurants out there. That's what we do all the time. We love the restaurants.
Years ago, they were so friendly. They were so nice and so friendly. They'd send me airline tickets. Let me tell you, when they send you airline tickets, boy, they can't wait to get your money. You know what I mean? And that tickles me to think about that. And of course, but Las Vegas is beautiful. And when you're flying into Las Vegas, certain flights, now not every time, they can say, look over to your right, you can see the Grand Canyon. And sure enough. Yeah. And of course, the other thing that you look for is the Hoover Dam.
I know, I want to see that
which
too.
Is beautiful, which is right outside Las Vegas.
What a lot of people do is they take helicopter rides out of Vegas, and they actually have dinners and drinks in the Grand Canyon. Then you get back on the helicopter and go back to Vegas.
Well, what we'll do, we'll come up with some reason to be out in Las Vegas for. We'll just tell them that we're promoting.
It's only about a 3 or 4 hour drive from Los Angeles, isn't it? I know when Alabama played in the Rose Bowl, that a lot of Alabama fans went and stayed in Las Vegas.
About 3 hours, and it's through the mountains. It's a beautiful drive, but I was with my brother when we rode through there one time, and he scared me to death because he flies. I mean, this is my older brother. And I mean, around all those mountains, and gosh, it was scary. Now, a lot of this was upper California through Nevada.
Your brother Joel Amos South Jackson a whole lot longer.
That's right.
We'll just drive over and watch Troy play this weekend.
I've got a brother out there in the Rocky Mountains as we speak. He's probably, they're sleeping right now. I was talking to a friend of mine from Georgia last night, and he said, asked me, he said, when is the Troy Brigham Young game? And he said, what time is it going to be? I said, well, it'll start at 9 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock your time. He said, what? I said, 10 o'clock your time, and he can't wait. He said, well, he's going to sleep late on Saturday and stay up for it. The game, of course, is coming to you from Provo, Utah, and Jerry Miller never has been to a place like that in his life. Of course, Jerry Miller, my good friend.
I don't know. You know, Troy has played out there at Utah State before, so I'm sure he's been out there before. He's been on the color for years.
Well, I've been to a basketball game out there before, and they had fireworks inside the arena. It was really amazing. But Troy played them in basketball.
How would you rank a Troy if they did win at BYU? Where would that be?
That'd be a top 20. I would think they'd be somewhere in the top 20 or top 25.
I know, but I mean, I'm talking about as far as wins in Troy history. Would that be a top 10 win of all time?
Oh, yeah, no question about it. I think the top win was LSU. Probably the next top win was Missouri.
Well, you know, Troy, we forget it and take it for granted, but Troy went to Nebraska and beat Nebraska.
Oh, yeah, sure did.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, they beat Mississippi State their first year being Division I, so that's got to be up there in the top 5.
Mike compliments me on my column I wrote as the sports editor at the Messenger when Troy was contemplating going to Division I. I said, do it. All the arguments of the naysayers don't hold water. I said, you know, everybody said Troy will get killed, and I said Troy will beat some of these in time. Troy will beat some of these big teams, without a doubt.
This is real good.
But one of those teams I could have mentioned, I wrote that column probably in 1990-91. What if I would have wrote, you know, strongly, check back in 30 years, Troy will have beaten Nebraska? I would have gotten laughed out of Troy, wouldn't I?
Let me tell you something that some people...
And not only did they beat them handily.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something that'll tickle you, and this is a fun topic to be on. You're on Today in L.A. live from... on Facebook from our studios on South Brundage Street in Troy, Alabama. L.A. means Lower Alabama. Now, I don't want you folks from California to start ringing the doorbell down on us, but we're proud to be from Lower Alabama, and we're talking about some of Troy University's greatest wins. This morning when I was shaving, and then Nick, I know Nick's probably shaving right now, one of my close friends.
Hey, Nick.
He's probably shaving right now. He said, oh, Mike, you don't know what you're talking about. The furthest plane trip we've ever made, Mike, I'm sure you can answer this question.
We went to San Francisco to watch Troy in the Silicon Valley Bowl.
That's right. We flew to San Francisco, so this is not the longest airplane flight that we've had to play a football game. And, of course, the other one would be this one to Provo, Utah, I would think. Wouldn't you think, Mike? Or how about Montana? Montana might be further than Las Vegas. What do you think?
Yeah, Montana's above Utah, so yeah, that might have been the longest.
I can remember the start of that football game. We intercepted a pass on the first play from the scrimmage, ran it back for a touchdown, and they beat us 70-7.
Oh gosh, yep.
Troy had never been beat, but the kids couldn't even stand up. The ground was totally frozen.
Do you know who called that game? It's amazing. Jim Fight and Mal Moore called that game.
Did they real? Mal Moore was the color man.
Yeah, they were doing television games for a little while on CSS, that channel out of Atlanta we used to like a lot.
Yeah.
They called that game.
Give me Rick Rhodes' number, Mike, and we'll call him and see what he's doing today. Of course, a former Troy coach who's doing a lot of television and doing it very well.
He's very good at it.
And
in that game against Missouri, you mentioned, Pat Lyons, I think, made a sack and picked it up and ran in a fumble.
That's right.
The Troy went up 7-0, and that was a great Troy team, but they just got absolutely destroyed in that game.
I'll tell you another game that.
Let's do top 10 victories in Troy history.
All right. That's what we're doing.
I'm going to say number one is, of course, LSU. I'm going to say at the time Mississippi State will probably be number 2 in Starkville. Oklahoma State and Missouri. I'd say Missouri's number 3. Oklahoma State's number 4. Actually, I would move championships would be 6, 7, 8.
That would be North Dakota State,
Portland State, Texas A&M.
Portland
And
State.
then, I would have to say the win at Marshall that you and I went to has to be in the top.
That was a huge game. That was a huge game.
That'd probably be number 9, and then number 10 would probably be that first bowl win against Rice would have to be. That was the most exciting I think I'd ever been in my years to see Troy just blow out a team and win a bowl game for the first time.
And let me just tell you this: there's no question about fun. Is to go to New Orleans and play in a bowl game.
Yeah, that New Orleans bowl is
especially great. If the game's at night and you're able to party all Friday or the night before and eat breakfast at those great restaurants. And
was the French Quarter just full of Troy people?
Oh, just full of Troy people.
Yeah.
Troy, I mean, big time, no question. And people. And then let me tell you, people will jump out of their wagon to go see Troy in a bowl game in New Orleans.
I know.
You know, that's the bowl capital of the world.
That's
right
where
there.
you want to go, the New Orleans Bowl.
And of course, Troy will have a chance on it, and it's going to be fun to watch. This is a good Troy team, but they're going up against a bunch of grown men. And when I talk about grown men, Mike, explain where I'm coming from.
Well, I mean, in the Mormon, faith, religion, that they go on mission trips for 2 years. So a lot of these players that go to school there will maybe play their freshman year or sophomore year, and then they'll go away for 2 years on a mission trip. And by the time they come back, they can be 23, 24, sometimes even 25 years old. So they're just older and mature, football players.
We were talking about this the other day, and Forrest looked it up. Forrest Lee is good to like you, Michael, quickly look things up. He says that's such a sticking point with Brigham Young. They hear this all the time, that they, on their website, they've got their average age of their team, which is only 21.4 or 21.7, which is probably true. But then, you go further, the average age of Troy University or Auburn or Alabama is probably 19.4.
Right.
So they're probably 2 years older. But
2 years older.
We've learned from some of these kids that do their missions in Troy that Mike has on the show every year, that 60% of the church members go on Mormons.
Yeah.
So you say that 50 or 60% of the team goes on one, and then these kids can also be redshirted. So that's 3 years there.
They've been away from football.
And then they can be on the football team for 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's 7 years from your 18th birthday. That puts a fair number of players at 25, and it's got to be some at 26.
Now, and another thing, something that could hurt them if they take their mission trip right out of high school. That means that a lot of them are. It's been 2 years since they played football. So, and then let's just say they're freshmen,
and
then they redshirt them as 3, like you said, and then they might play a little bit as a pure freshman, and then they'll play a sophomore. So these kids, like you said, could have been there 6 or 7 years if you looked at. Of course, they wouldn't have been on scholarship during all those times because of the NCAA rules, but they could have been around for a long time. Don't you agree?
I'll tell you what, Brigham Young, they looked awesome against Navy. I mean, their quarterback's highly touted, and they got a good passing game, but their running game was really physical and good. Defense was dominant.
They've got a quarterback that's
they're a top 20
big time.
team, so if Troy wins on national TV, on ESPN, against a nationally ranked team, that'll be one of the biggest wins in school history, without a doubt.
Let me tell you what, like I said, speed kills, especially in athletics. And of course, Troy will be a much faster team. And something else that Troy will bring to the table that Navy didn't. Troy will bring a run offense and a passing offense. Navy was totally one-dimensional. So, and of course, Navy's good when they get it rolling, but they weren't rolling that night. They stopped everybody cold. And let me tell you this: I'd love to play Navy if I could prepare for them for about a month, and hit the quarterback every down. I always said, "Well, gosh, won't you just hit the? Each guy's got to make something happen." That fullback now does too, But if you stop the first two phases, and here we go, we're coming out in a full wishbone set. I'm the quarterback, and I'm going to stick it in the belly of that fullback right there. Okay, I'm reading this guy. Is he going to come down on him? Well, I'm going to pull it out, and then I'm going to go down the line.
And read the outside linebacker.
Read the outside linebacker, and, of course, you played it before, and you either turn it up for a game or pitch it. And, of course, that offense has been very successful. But at the same time, if you come hard down on that quarterback, it does disrupt things. I've got a picture in my office of Mike Turk, and I just could never believe what he could do with football. He was 5'7", 5'6", or 5'7" at the most. He weighed 158 pounds, and I never saw him get hit hard. He was so quick, you might hit him, but you wouldn't hit him solid because he was just so terribly quick. He was one of the quickest football players I've ever seen, and one of the great wishbone quarterbacks of all time. But you've got to be able to execute it with that great fullback, and that's what Navy had for all those years. But he didn't do anything against BYU. BYU was not playing against a very good offensive team in Navy.
Yeah, I was reading about BYU. Alabama's offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian played at BYU. In his senior year, he threw for 4,027 yards and 33 touchdowns.
That is awesome.
And they led BYU to a 13-1 record. This was in 1996.
Sarkisian?
Yeah, I remember when he played, I remember when he played. Name me some other great quarterbacks that played at BYU, Mike.
Well, you got Steve Young.
Steve Young won a Super Bowl.
You got a guy named McMahon. That's pretty good.
McMahon won a Super Bowl. I mean, a national championship. Don't you agree?
Played for the Chicago Bears.
Oh yeah,
Detmer won the national championship.
Ty Detmer. He had a record amount of passing yards.
Yeah, they was quarterback U there for about 15 years.
But what I'm saying, they have produced a lot of good quarterbacks, and this one they've got now is that good. He's really, really good. And
his last name's Wilson.
Yeah, and again though, they can't run with Troy, and that's the thing we got going for us is our speed and then also our balance on offense.
They'll run it right at Troy, up the middle.
Oh yeah, defensively, and against somebody said this, Mike, about the game this past weekend, and of course Troy was so impressive over Middle Tennessee, 47-14, was that Middle Tennessee didn't have any good running backs, and as I looked at that film, I understand where they're coming from. Those were some of the worst running backs I've seen in college football in a long time. Well, what happened there? Did they lose a bunch of players?
I didn't hear of any COVID issues. I just think that's who they got.
Or did they have anybody to go ahead and leave and go to another school? Don't you agree that can you think of anybody, a running back in that game for Middle Tennessee that did anything other than the quarterback? The quarterback ran out of the pocket a few times.
I'll say the defense looked a lot like night and day from last year. This is one game, but they looked fast and they looked aggressive. I didn't see any receivers just breaking wide open, so it was encouraging.
It's time for us to get ready, and you Auburn fans, though you lucky ones that are going to get to go to the game, it's the Auburn Tigers against the Kentucky Wildcats. 11 o'clock kickoff from Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn, Alabama. It's Auburn and Kentucky in NCAA football from the SEC. And Auburn's going to be ready, or you're going to be ready. And it is 11 o'clock kickoff.
Michael, give us an update on this line. It started out high and it's going down.
Yeah, last time I saw it was down to 8. The Alabama line started at 22, and it's now at 28.
Oh, boy.
Well, Auburn, the last I saw was 7.5. Where I'd check them.
Down that far?
Well, it depends on where you look. I mean, our sites might be different, but So the money seems to be going on Kentucky, which Kentucky's got this great offensive line, supposedly, a quarterback that got hurt that's really good, a good stout defense. But you know what I say? They're still Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky
yeah, I agree with you.
Can Kentucky hang with Auburn?
Yeah.
Don't go.
Does the state of Kentucky produce more high school athletes than Alabama?
That's right. So, I mean, you might have a real good value here going on the Tigers.
Yeah, exactly right. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back to more of Today in L.A. And on the way out, let's say one more time to those Auburn Tigers. We'll be back to Today in L.A. in just a moment.
The 72-hour program car sale is happening now. Low mileage lease turn-ins, extra clean rental cars, save up to 50% off original MSRP, plus over 30 vehicles priced under $15,000 and 120 to choose from. We are overstocked with Ford, Chevy, Nissan, Hyundai, Toyota, and more. The 72-hour program car sale only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Shop us in person or online at PremierDroid.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
Our history is woven with the stories of those we serve. At Max, we've been a good community partner for 65 years. Max is dedicated to providing dependable financial services and to supporting our communities. We volunteer our time and share our resources. As a credit union, we've returned millions of dollars back to our members, local nonprofits, and small businesses. Max is honored to be a part of your story. We look forward to serving you for years to come.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Know-how, Napa Know-How.
Troy Cable Security Wi-Fi doorbell camera allows you to answer the door from your smartphone when you are at home, at work, or on the go. When a visitor presses the button, Troy Cable Security sends a live video feed to your smartphone so you can see, hear, and speak to the person at your door. With the doorbell camera, you can have your porch light turn on automatically when it detects motion at night to create the appearance that someone is at home. You can view video clips so you can always know who stopped by when you are out. Troy Cable Security. You love them, protect them.
The Crimson Tide of Alabama travels to Columbia, Missouri this weekend to play the Missouri Tigers. And it's Alabama and Missouri, 6 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. Of course, that game from Columbia, Missouri should be a good one. Alabama starts the season this weekend. 6 o'clock kickoff on ESPN.
I remember once upon a time, Alabama opened the football season against Missouri and disaster hit.
I can remember it.
I think it was 1975, and
21 nothing, wasn't it?
20 to 7.
20 to 7, yeah.
Tony Galbraith was the running back. Alabama loses to Missouri. I don't know if it was at Missouri or might have even been in
It was at Legion Field. I remember it well.
I mean, stunner. And then I think Alabama runs the table after that. But
Dan Devine was the coach at Missouri, I think. I don't think he ever lost to Bear Bryant. Dan Devine coached at Notre Dame, and he coached at Missouri. That'd be a good question to ask Mike.
Sawyer Smith still on the roster at Kentucky.
We're talking about Sawyer Smith from Tate High School in Pensacola, was a quarterback at Troy, and he transferred to play for the University of Kentucky. And in fact, he started the year off. Didn't he start at one time?
Yeah, after
they lost their starter Terry Wilson.
Yeah,
but he did start for one game or two.
He started against Florida.
Yeah.
Played pretty good.
Have you ever wondered where he'd be?
He threw for 267 yards against Florida.
Yeah. Well, how many? 250.
267.
Oh, okay, yeah. Where would you think he'd be on Troy's depth chart right now? Where would you think he'd be?
I would think experience-wise, he probably would have been the starter going into the season. I would think if he would have stayed.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You're talking about a guy that started 8 games at Troy. When we lost, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank on the quarterback from last year.
Caleb.
Barkley. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
You would think if he would have stayed around, he would have been the starter.
Yeah. But let me tell you something about Caleb Barker. He threw for over 3,000 yards, or actually 3,500 yards last year, Mike. That's almost a record at Troy. He got hurt. If he hadn't gotten hurt with the speed he had, he'd been one of the greats of all time at Troy, but injuries slowed him down.
This was probably the year that he'd really be coming into his own, because some of these knee injuries take you 2 years to
he was a red shirt they should have made, but right now I think we're in pretty good shape. But he would have been what if he'd been
he played special teams his freshman year.
Yeah, he was real fast, and of course he came from North Alabama. But we were talking about throwing for a lot of yardage. When Sam Bird in 1968 led Troy to a national championship in a win over Texas A&I in a game played at Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, he passed. After that game, his final statistics was he threw for 4,008 yards and 41 touchdowns.
That's amazing.
How impressive is that?
In 1960, that'd be like 8,000 yards today.
The regular season ended, he had 3,000, right at 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns.
Did everyone in Troy appreciate what they had then?
Yeah,
that it was so different. It's almost like the basketball teams in Maestri that were scoring 130 points a game.
Yeah.
It's just so different than everybody else.
Well, just in the 2 playoff games, Troy in that playoff game, the first game was held. There were 4 teams in the finals, and the game was played at Crampton Bowl against Willamette College of Salem, Oregon. Ring of that, I don't know.
What type of crowd was there at that game?
Well, it was about 15,000. Big crowd. Maybe more. The stadium holds about 25,000. At the old Crampton Bowl. But to tell you how well Sam Bird played in that game was against Salem, Oregon. We won the game 61-3, I think 61-3, and he threw for about 500 yards in that game, or 600 yards, 500 yards in that game, and then the championship game the next week was played at Crampton Bowl in front of a record crowd of, right at 25,000 people or something like that. It was really, maybe a little less than that, but it was a record crowd for the championship game.
Mm-hmm, right.
And he threw against Willamette, he threw for 6 touchdown passes. And then for the championship game, he threw for 5.
Well, he was going back to his stomping grounds. Didn't he play many games at Crampton Bowl?
So in those 2 games, he threw for 11 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards in those 2 playoff games. Wasn't that something?
Yeah. And that changed the whole future. Troy does not go to Division I and beat LSU and Nebraska and get on ESPN if Troy did not win that national championship, I say.
And I was telling y'all last week, I watched the playback of the Marshall-Troy game when Troy won the game and they tore down the bleachers. That was the most prolific time I've ever seen the Troy football program, even at LSU. The way the television did it, it was a full house, right at 30,000, by far probably the largest crowd ever. And it was just the pageantry was just unreal. The national TV was just unreal. And I really believe, of course, Sam Bird doing what he did to win a national championship really enhanced Troy football. But when Troy beat Marshall at home, that really, really put a star next to
that kind of validated
Troy
everything
football.
that, yes, we can do this.
That's right.
Because Marshall was, they were flying high at the time.
Yeah.
They had Randy Moss had played there. They had, I think, 2 quarterbacks that ended up playing in the NFL.
That's right.
They
had a great
won
team.
a lot of big games. They had done what Troy had done. They'd gone from 1AA to Division I, and they had no problem whatsoever. So They were a top 25 type program when Troy beat them.
No question about it. And they were. You go to a game there, and it was just unreal, the pageantry. And I mean, what if our businesses put Go Troy on or Go Trojans on their businesses? Well, you go to Marshall, and there is a Go Herd, that's Thundering Herd. There's a Go Herd everywhere you go, from the airport.
I'd say put a beat BYU on your marquee this week.
Yeah, beat BYU. You're right.
That's why I like Marshall at home against App State. I mean, tradition-wise, Marshall is right up there with App State. They don't fear App State like some people do.
Oh yeah, they have
no question.
I like that game.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's got a big weekend.
Did you watch the pro game last night? That Raider Stadium is beautiful.
Oh boy!
Beautiful new stadium.
Let me tell you, that's going to be a mecca. That's going to be the mecca of them all.
Did you see what Gruden did at the end of the game? I couldn't believe this. So
what did he do?
They're up by 7 with about a minute, 10 seconds left, and instead of punting the ball to New Orleans and making them drive the field, he brings in Daniel Carlson, the great Auburn kicker. And, I mean, most coaches wouldn't have done this. I mean, they're already up by 7. But Gruden said, I got a kicker that can kick it better than anybody. He lined Carlson up for a 54-yard field goal, up by 7. And if he misses that field goal, Drew Brees, with, I think, maybe one timeout left from about the 35-yard line. And Carlson goes in there. Of course, you're kicking in a dome. He just drills a 54-yard field goal like it's nothing. Yeah. And the Raiders end up winning by 10. But I couldn't believe he did that last night. But if you got a great kicker, you got a great kicker.
Carlson's a great story. You know, he was one of the best college kickers I've ever seen at Auburn.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets drafted, and he goes to the NFL, I think the Vikings. In one of his early games, he misses a couple of field goals and maybe one extra point. But he made some field goals in that game, too. And the ones he missed, he barely missed. They promptly cut him after one bad game. And I said, that is the worst decision they've ever made. And to Gruden's credit, they picked him up off waivers, and he's proven to be as good in the pros as he was in college.
Well, Parkey is the other Auburn kicker, and he's still in the pros, isn't he?
Yeah, he got picked back up. He's kicking. I want to say Auburn's got another guy in the pros that's a kicker. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into it. They've got a lot of good kickers.
Have you talked to any Auburn friends to find out if they're going to be able to go to the game or not? That's what so good friends of mine who the Wise brothers are huge. Their family are huge Auburn fans, and I'm wondering if they're going to be able to go to the game. Of course, they've got a great tailgate. You go to a game with them, boy, I tell you,
I'd say the same thing. The Auburn, I'd say the Alabama is. Why did they cut it off at 20%? I mean, why didn't they go ahead and do 25%, 26%, 27%?
And does that include the students?
Stadium would still, you would still have plenty of room to space out if you did it.
Does that include the students? So the students get to come. That doesn't count. That 20% doesn't count students.
No, it counts the students.
It does.
They only let a few students go. I mean,
oh boy.
They have some wacky priority system that I think seniors get priority.
Yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about.
It's going to help, the visiting team. When A&M comes in with Kellen Mond, I mean, he's going to be able to hear his signals. He's going to be able to.
Yeah.
It's almost going to be like a glorified scrimmage. I mean, 25,000 or 20,000 fans in a band, and I wonder if they're going to be piping noise too.
I don't know.
You would think so.
But I tell you what, sometimes we can't get a kid to mow the grass if you tell them to, or go to the grocery store, or clean out the garage or whatever. You can't get them to do that. But they'll sit in the stands for over 3 hours in 100-degree temperature waiting for football game to start. I mean, that's the difference in Alabama and Auburn football as far as what these kids do. They'll wait 3 hours for the game. Isn't that right? The students can go in at one time.
Now it's almost like you got to beg them to go, and then they get there late, and then they leave early. It's always embarrassing that, especially Alabama games, full stadium everywhere, and then there's always this one little corner of empty seats, and you say, what is that? Well, it's the student section. The darn students didn't.
And if they've been in the juice, just think they've waited there for 2.5 to 3 hours for that game to start. Just think how crazy that crowd's going to be, you know. And
on this, but huge game at State Thursday night in Mobile as UAB will travel to South Alabama and play South Alabama in the new stadium. UAB is a 7.5-point favorite. This game will be on Thursday night, ESPN.
I might try to go to that game. UAB versus South Alabama.
I'll tell you that, I've watched these lines when they come out just out of curiosity, and that one opened up at 6, and it's already gone to 7.5.
Oh, really? The UAB?
Of course, as a Troy fan, you want South Alabama to lose this game because you don't want them having any momentum when Troy's going in there next week.
Yeah.
Now, does Troy play on a Saturday or do they play on a Thursday?
No, Troy plays on Saturday.
Oh, yeah,
Is that who Troy plays after Brigham Young?
Yeah, they're at South Alabama.
And
that's what I'm saying. You know, when Lon Monroe had the COVID issues, Troy was forced to play 3 straight on the road. So this is a tough stretch for Troy right now.
Yeah.
Well, that could be if Troy loses to BYU, which they're a pretty big underdog. Then that'll be tough to come off that long trip, deflating loss, and then go play a sky-high South Alabama team maybe. Yeah. So that the whole season could hinge on these next 2 games.
You know, I'm going to tell you something right now.
South Alabama's trying to recover from that horrible, disappointing loss to Tulane when they're up 24-6 in the third quarter. So UAB played Miami pretty tough, and Miami looks to be really good. So UAB's had a week. I think 10 days to get ready for this game, so I would expect UAB will come out and play well.
You know who the offensive coordinator for UAB is Brian Vincent?
Brian Vincent, yes, sir. They used to be right here.
He was the offensive coordinator for Coach Fountain at Charles Henderson when they had some high-flying, great offenses. And then he went to South Alabama, was offensive coordinator, Bryant did. And I think they fired him.
Yeah.
But then they picked him right back up at UAB, and so he'll be playing against his old team.
Yeah. He is a very good coach.
Him and Clark have been buddies for a long time. But, you know, he left Charles Henderson, went to Greenville, got a job there, left Greenville, went to Spanish Sports. So he's been in some big programs in high school.
He's a good friend of mine. In fact, I probably could call him, and he might do me a favor if I want to go to that game.
He told you last time you saw him, Dad, he'd give you tickets to any games you
I know it. He and I are good friends, and he's a great young coach. You know, they call him Bryant Vincent. He came from Kentucky, like a lot of these other guys. I've always wondered if he and Troy Brown had any kind of relationship in coaching.
You know, I took him for granted when he was here. I mean, I didn't appreciate how cutting edge he was, but
that offense was ahead of them.
Yeah, that offense he ran at Charles Henderson was wide open. Who was his little Stevens kid? Was the quarterback? Yeah. He was outstanding. And one of the little Jones boys was the star receiver.
And the little kid looking up at the program was a little kid named Ingram, who is without a doubt, in my mind, the greatest quarterback that's ever played at Charles Henderson High School.
That Stevens kid
that's saying a lot.
He was really good. I mean, he was not. He was undersized.
He was good.
He could chunk that ball, and he could also run it when he wanted to.
We're talking about Austin Ingram.
Brian Vincent came up with that offense, and to Coach Fountain's credit, he let him do it.
Yeah.
But that was a prolific, wasn't it? I mean, they would score 40 points a game routinely.
Well, let me tell you who.
Does Fountain want to come back?
I don't know, but let me just say this about.
I think Fountain won 7 or 8 games every year at least.
Brian Vincent's a guru, the guy that he really respected, and he coached for him for 3 or 4 years, was former Alabama All-American Bobby Johns.
Yeah, really?
Bobby Johns was coaching over at West Alabama, or that's Livingston, and Brian Vincent learned that offense pretty much from Bobby Johns, who was an All-American at Alabama.
I liked old Bryant because he was real personable, and I mean he would talk to anybody, and just real down to earth. Kind of, you pull for people like that.
Okay, it's 7:52, and we're looking at our sponsors today, Detroit Bank and Trust Company, the only bank you'll ever need. Now with 13 locations to choose from. Also, I want to mention, on a sad note, our good friend Bill Jackson passed away, and of course, owner of Bill Jackson Chevrolet, and Jim and all the family. Our prayers and our thoughts go out to you this morning, and of course, Bill Jackson Chevrolet, a very established dealership.
It's an institution.
For years here in Troy, and then now they own the Ford place. So Bill Jackson was a pioneer in the automobile industry here in Troy.
He knew what he was doing in the car business.
No question about it.
That's a tough business, and he excelled at it.
We're going to take a short break. The show is brought to you by Jean's Flowers, and they can get you flowers and send flowers from anywhere on this earth. And we appreciate them very much for being a solid sponsor on our show. Will Matthews, a law firm located in Ozark, Alabama, looking for a great lawyer. Call Will Matthews at the Matthews Law Firm. We'll be back.
The 72-hour program car sale is happening now. Low mileage lease turn-ins, extra clean rental cars, save up to 50% off original MSRP, plus over 30 vehicles priced under $15,000 and 120 to choose from. We are overstocked with Ford, Chevy, Nissan, Hyundai, Toyota, and more. The 72-hour program car sale only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Shop us in person or online at PremierTroy.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
By its very nature, doing big things takes resilience and strength. You did the hard part. You did it, and we'll go farther still. Max is proud to be your champion, removing obstacles that get in your way. We make technology easy, saving and funds access uncomplicated, and provide help when and how you want it. You control your money with expert guidance from Max Credit Union. Smart money made simple.
A personal touch, a high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big part of our identity.
Well, Mike, back to our show brought to you by, let me tell you this, if you haven't ever eaten here, you need to join the folks that have, because the food is outstanding. Of course, Sisters is open every day except Saturday, and they've gone back to a buffet, and I'm excited about it. And the food is outstanding.
Buffet where they serve you, or you serve yourself?
They serve you, I've been told. Cafeteria style.
Well, it's cafeteria style, and
but that's okay.
Are we sure that we need to call them today and find out for sure how they're doing it? But it is great food, as good as you're gonna get anywhere. I want to mention Pike Tree Service, and through all these storms and everything, they have done the job and done it beautifully, as removing trees and rubbish from your yard.
I think I saw where Fairhope schools. I got some friends who live in Fairhope. They're not even letting their kids go back to school until like I think October because of all the storm damage.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah, because of the storm damage. Let me tell you some good words, Mike, and of course you and Rice look at this quite a bit. Pike County drops to moderate risk, and a few weeks ago we were talking about severe risk, and as of yesterday, Troy University added 3 new student cases, marking the 4th day in a row. The university reported 5 or fewer cases. University now has reported 341 cases among students on the Troy campus. So it's here, no question. We got to be careful.
I watched a video this morning when I woke up at 2:30. Australia seems to be really stringent about this. Let's put this politically correct. And there's a story and videos of several people being arrested for violating the COVID laws. One of them is a lady, 38-year-old lady that's pregnant, many weeks pregnant. She was walking in the park. She got winded and she sat on a bench in the park, and they arrested her for that. Was a law against sitting down. She could walk in the park, but you cannot sit on the bench. And there is videotape of the police, and she's just flummoxed. You can hear her. What, you're arresting me for sitting, a pregnant lady for sitting down on the bench? And the police officer says, yes ma'am, that's one of the 4 things you cannot do anymore. Then, I guess it's the same park, there's 2 elderly ladies, look like they're 75, 80 years old. They're sitting down in the park, and 4 cops come and arrest her and give her a citation. Man, I mean, and then the third one is a lady, a mother. She doesn't like all these prohibitions and thinks that they've gone too far in Australia, like a lot of places are. And she makes a post on Facebook saying, we're going to have a peaceful rally protesting all the things that you're doing. Well, apparently that's against the law, you know, inciting people to riot or something. They come in her house and arrest her with her kids around her because she made a Facebook post saying, let's organize a peaceful rally. Aren't all of those things just kind of chilling? I mean, you're just, some people are going a little too far with it.
Yeah. The Alabama Department of Public Health has identified 61,230 people have recovered since the tracking began, and 2,428 have died from the virus, which only 740 people are currently hospitalized in the state of Alabama. More than 1.39 million people have been tested in Alabama. That sounds pretty good.
Hey, Michael, you know, I've been big the whole time on what percentage of these positive cases are asymptomatic. That means no symptoms, so they're basically not sick. I actually emailed back and forth with this reporter for the AL.com, Michael Casagrande. He's done some pretty good stories, and I said, man, you need to ask these deans and presidents how many of these positive cases are asymptomatic. And he said, well, I'll do it. They're avoiding me. Well, finally, got him to give an answer. It turns out of all these positive cases you've heard about at the University of Alabama, 2,000 plus, 75 to 80% of them have been asymptomatic. So that 75 to 80% of these 2,000 people aren't sick at all. They have no symptoms. So that means that, you know, there might be 400 people that had symptoms. And then the dean further said, they put you in quarantine if you're positive. He said, and most of the people who are in quarantine don't have significant symptoms. So even the ones that are a little sick aren't too sick. But I thought that was huge news that, you know, you've got the positive cases gets all the headlines, but we've never learned how many percentage are asymptomatic. And here's the University of Alabama, who's tested basically every student on campus multiple times, and says 80% of them aren't even sick.
Yeah.
Mike Norville, the Florida State coach, has COVID, so he's going to be out for 2 weeks and not be able to coach Florida State. They say he's asymptomatic, so I guess he'll be involved, I guess, I don't know, through Zoom or through telephone calls or something leading up to game time. So,
you know, I watched who's the coach? Coach Blackman down in Mobile area that coaches a high school team that played at Troy.
Yeah.
He's one of the coaches that had it, and he was obviously asymptomatic because they talked about him when he was on COVID isolation. He was still conducting meetings by Zoom, and he said he went and watched every practice every day. What he did, he drove his car up to the practice field and watched out. So he wasn't too sick.
That's Ben Blackman. Yeah. Ryan is the special teams coordinator at Troy.
Right, so, you know, of course, this is...
Y'all want to go over the SEC lines?
Yeah, and let's go and let's pick them just right here today, just the SEC games. Florida versus Ole Miss. What's the line on it?
It started at 11.5. Florida's now 14.5. This is Ole Miss at Ole Miss Lincoln's debut.
Well, that surprises me that they don't give Ole Miss a chance here hardly. I'll take Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Florida. I wouldn't be surprised though if Ole Miss gets under that number.
Yeah, you're right. That's, what do you think, Rice?
I think Florida will cover.
All right.
You're right. Kentucky against Auburn. Auburn line is down to 7.
Where did it start?
Started at
9 or 10.
It started at 10.
Mike Amos calling in from Great
I'm
Beach,
gonna
Florida.
I'm going to let it get as low as I can. Then I'm going to call somebody and say Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, you might want to get Auburn down to 6.5. You'd probably be good.
I love Auburn here. I love those Tigers and their quarterback. How good is their quarterback, Mike?
So, Nick?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was, all freshman team last year. I mean, he was pretty good as a freshman. Beat Alabama.
And they say he's getting better every day, too. Okay, everybody takes Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, after that, you've got Mississippi State traveling to LSU. This line's at 17. This is a game that's interesting to me. I feel like LSU is not going to be near the team. They lost 15 guys to the draft. They lost 4 or 5 guys that opted out. I mean, new quarterback. Mississippi State from Leach will be able to score points. Interesting game to me, but I think LSU will win.
Now, a lot of people might not realize this, but the starting quarterback for Stanford last year is now at Mississippi State. How does that happen, Mike?
He was just a grad transfer. KJ Costello is his name.
And wasn't he the starting quarterback at Stanford?
Yeah, he started for a couple of years.
Yeah, and of course he's now. That's a pretty big culture shock there a little bit.
I was thinking the same thing.
One of the richie schools in America is Stanford against the Cal College from Mississippi State, and he chose the Cal College.
He chose Mike Leach.
Of all the schools I've been to,
Mike Leach, you're right.
Mississippi State grads. So we've been to Mississippi State games and been to Starkville State. That's the closest town to me to Troy in the SEC by far. I mean, Starkville can't be more than 25,000 people.
That's right.
Maybe less than that. Really, really small place.
No question about it. Okay, do y'all take LSU to win the game? But we don't know about giving all those points away.
That's right.
Georgia versus Arkansas, and we're talking about a proud football tradition at Arkansas, and boy, they have been one of the worst teams in the country the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you're right.
Who do y'all like here, Joy? What's that line here?
It's gone to 26.5.
Well, I tell you what, Arkansas might play them tough. Be careful here. But Georgia will win the game.
Arkansas's new head coach was the offensive line coach at Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you ought to know everything about Georgia.
That's right.
His name's Sam Pittman.
Yeah. They used to make fun of the guy that was the coach, for the last 3 or 4 years, not last year, but the big coach who left Wisconsin. Can you believe that now? He left Wisconsin to come to Arkansas.
Brett Dillman.
Did you ever figure out what happened there? Do you think the AD was giving him a hard time?
Him and Alvarez had some issues. Alvarez was a former coach. I think Alvarez was maybe a little bit too involved still.
And if you think about it, he would have probably still been at Wisconsin because he won there quite often.
He won 3 Big Ten titles.
And that just sort of ruined his career. A personality, you can't burn any bridges. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody takes Georgia. Alabama versus Missouri. Now, what is that line now, Mike?
It was at 28. Now it's down to 27.5.
All right, so a little bit of movement there.
Interesting there is the over-under 56.5. I would say the score will probably be around 45 to 14, maybe. I don't know. That over-under is interesting to me because I know Alabama will be in the 40s.
But then you're thinking that Alabama will probably shut them down, but Missouri might score twice, if they do. So
that's the thing. That's the thing with Alabama over the years. Once they get up a big lead, Saban will play young guys. He'll play second, third string guys. He'll play all his quarterbacks. I mean, Alabama will definitely substitute. So it'll be interesting to see how this takes place.
Yeah. I hope he substitutes. All these coaches better be substituting freely, because as this year goes on, you're going to have games where you lose 12, 15, 20 players.
All right, now he's got Mac Jones as the starting quarterback. Who are his backups, Mike? And will we see the?
Bryce Young will be playing. I'm sure at least maybe the first. I mean, play at least a quarter, I would think. Towards the end, he might play a little bit in between, but Paul Tyson Jr. is the backup after that. I don't know who's after Tyson.
And that's Bear Bryant's great grandson or grandson? Great grandson.
Great grandson.
And of course,
played at. Story with him is he played at Mountain Brook and then transferred to Trustful because they liked the offensive system, and the coach was a Malzahn kind of disciple that ended up getting to do a Trustful job.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard good things about Tyson. To say he's improved. He's going to get better the more he fills out and the more confidence he gets. I would see him by the time he's about a redshirt sophomore or junior to be a quality player.
You know, I watched his press conference yesterday talking about Saban, and he was very humble. He wasn't very arrogant at all. Did y'all think he was ever arrogant during that interview?
No,
he was very humble. And all he could talk about how good a defense Missouri had and what a great team Missouri was.
I'm gonna tell you. Can I say? I'm gonna tell you what I think.
I think he's just so happy they're going to be able to play. A lot of these coaches are just so happy they're going to play.
Well, they're working to do it. Alabama on paper is loaded. They've got about 7 or 8, at least 8 players that are potential first-round picks. I don't think that's an exaggeration. There's 8 guys on that team that could, depending on how their year goes, be a first-round pick. Stars everywhere. Saban's got 5 national championships. If he got a short season this year, if he got number 6 this year, don't you think it might be a good time to step out and retire into the sunset? Because it's going to be quite a little rebuilding year next year, probably.
Well, he's got 6 national championships. He won 1 at LSU and 5 at Alabama.
No, I think he's got 5 total. He still hadn't. Has he tied Bryant? Okay, so he's going to get.
Yeah, he's tied. He's tied.
So he could beat Bryant. He could get 7. I just wonder if things go right for Alabama, this might be the time to say, all right, I'm out of there. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I wouldn't be very surprised if that happened. And then you start saying, who's going to follow him? Who's the hot young coach right now out of the blue? Napier at Louisiana.
Yeah, but I just don't think his name is big enough. Of course, he's a good coach, but I would think it would be a bigger name.
Well, they'd go after Dabo first, but I don't think that Dabo...
There's a guy, and I don't know if it would ever happen, but there's a guy that was on TV a lot this weekend that used to be the head coach at Florida. He's still a fairly young guy. He's in his 50s, isn't he? How old is he, Mike?
Bob Stoops?
No, not Stoops. No, Mike, my vacuum cleaner salesman.
Stoops used to be defense coordinator in Florida.
Yeah. My vacuum cleaner salesman, Mike.
Oh, Urban Meyer?
Urban Meyer. Would Urban Meyer come to Alabama?
Yeah, he might.
I don't know if Alabama would want Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I don't know.
This Alabama fan would.
All right, let's look at...
it's going to be Dabo and then Jeremy Pruitt. I think he's the guy if Dabo doesn't take it.
Let me tell you something. If you want to make a living at this...
Saban won national championships, just to let everybody know he's won 6.
What did y'all say the line was on Alabama? What did y'all say it was?
27?
27.5.
All right, right now, if you could get them at 27.5, Alabama's probably going to shut Missouri down. They're going to score at least 40 points. This is a no-brainer. No-brainer to take Alabama here.
No, I'll put in, I think Missouri would get a backdoor cover. They'd score against Alabama scrubs in the second half. I don't know who the quarterback is, but they say that both of them are dual threats, and those run-pass quarterbacks sometimes give Alabama trouble.
Well, let me just say this.
Alabama's going to be watching Appalachian State film. Drinkovich left Appalachian State and is now the head coach in Missouri, so that's who they're going to be watching.
Well, let me tell you this. The line might go all the way to 30. Alabama's going to shut Missouri down completely, and it's according to how many points y'all think Alabama's going to score. Vanderbilt versus Texas A&M.
But back to Saban real quick, national championships. He won the national championship in 2003, 2009, 2003 at LSU, then 2009 at Alabama, 2011, 2012, 2015, and 2017.
Yeah. Okay.
He's overdue.
Oh, yeah. Vanderbilt versus Texas A&M, and I think our guy at Texas A&M is the most overrated football coach in America. I really do. He played his ball at Stanford University.
Won a national championship at Florida State, buddy. I don't think you can say that.
Hey, most overrated football coach in America.
Well, he had Jameis Winston. They came back and beat Auburn and won the national championship.
Well,
he had Jameis Winston.
He was loaded. He was loaded. You're right, but his teams are going to be ordinary, I think.
Well, he's stuck with a quarterback that has made him pretty ordinary. If he had a different quarterback, I think that would have been a lot better.
I thought he was going to try to jump ship. He didn't do it, though, did he?
They've had like a third or fourth string out of Montgomery. This quarterback from A&M keeps on entering the transfer portal, but Munn's is still the solid.
Out of Montgomery, who is that out of Montgomery, Mike?
Some guy that played at Park Crossing.
Yeah. Okay, everybody likes, what is the line there on Texas A&M?
It's 29.5, probably 30 at kick.
Oh, me. Gosh, take Vanderbilt. Getting that kind of points.
The game you skipped was the best game. Tennessee's only -3 at South Carolina.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right. This is a big opener for him. This is going to tell me a lot about him as a coach. Can he win games he's supposed to win?
Coach Pruitt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a heck of a game, but it's going to be played at South Carolina. Let me just say this. We've gone through a lot this season. We don't know, people have had to change their schedules over and over and over. But for the SEC to play 10 games is phenomenal. I mean, you've got right now ahead of you 10 fantastic weeks of football.
Mm-hmm.
And then oh, yeah. And then the key, now you've got a championship game that you got to play, so that'll be 11, won't it?
For two teams.
For two teams.
Yeah.
Something I think they need to look at is adding 2 more teams to the championship at the end of the year. You'll have 8 teams instead of 4 teams.
That's going to happen.
I wish it would happen this year.
Yeah. That's going to be too many upset fan bases if keep getting left out of the playoffs. So I think it's going to go to 8, and then at some points we go to 16.
Yeah. Mike, what are some games?
Apparently South Carolina's got a new quarterback. South Carolina, Will Muschamp brought in Mike Bobo, the former Colorado State coach. Of course, he played at Georgia, was offensive coordinator at Georgia. So Bobo apparently has brought in his quarterback that started in the last 2 years at Colorado State to be the quarterback at South Carolina.
Mike, that is good news. I did not know that. Did you know that?
He beat out the Holinsky kid.
Yeah, who everybody thought was pretty good.
They beat out the Bentley kid from Opelika. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays in his first start against Tennessee. Tennessee is pretty good on defense.
They're real good on the offensive line. They're physical. Tennessee was impressive at the end of the year last year. You talk about turning right in the ship. Coach Pruitt and his team did it. I think this is the bet of the week right here is jump on Tennessee while you can. That line.
Well, all right. Who did you tell me is Tennessee's quarterback?
No, South Carolina.
I know it. I don't like Tennessee's quarterback very well. I think they need a quarterback.
Gary Potts is the starter. That got announced
I tell you, I don't particularly like him. What do you think?
Yeah, he's up to me.
I mean, Muschamp, they pretty much kept his job because they went to Georgia and won last year. He finished 4-8. He lost at home to Appalachian State. This is a must-win season to keep this job. So, I don't know. This will be interesting. I have a slight lean to Tennessee, though.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I want to go back to right now.
This is the best game of the week in the SEC.
Yeah.
This and Auburn, Kentucky is an intriguing matchup, too.
How do we look television-wise, Mike? Tell us who's going to be on TV.
Well, we know Alabama's going to be at 6 on ESPN. Then Troy will be on ESPN after that at 9:15. Vandy, Texas A&M will be on the SEC Network at 6:30. Tennessee, South Carolina will be on the SEC Network at 6:30 as well. So they have that expanded channel where you can watch both games. Surprised Tennessee, South Carolina's not on a better network at a different time.
Not me too.
What time they gonna play that game? Auburn plays at 11.
Same time as Alabama and Missouri.
Tennessee, same time as Alabama and Missouri.
Boy. You know what this reminds me? This reminds me like of the bowl games. These teams playing each other like this remind me a lot of the way the bowl games used to be. You'd be watching one game and then 15 minutes later another game would come on.
You got Georgia, Arkansas at 3 o'clock on SEC Network. Let's see what else. You got Mississippi State and LSU are the CBS game at 2:30, which makes sense. I mean, LSU's the defending national champion, and Auburn, Kentucky will be on at 11 a.m. on the SEC Network.
Yeah.
So a lot of SEC Network games.
Let me tell you this, a game, y'all going to laugh when I say this, a game that to me has a chance to be upset. I think Mississippi State has a chance to upset LSU in Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm, maybe.
They've got this new quarterback coming in.
I don't know defensive-wise if they can do it, but I think they're going to score some points.
Yeah, but I tell you what, Mississippi State's got a pretty good team. Kentucky, Auburn's going to blow Kentucky out. I think Auburn is, he sit back there. They've been quiet. Think how quiet they've been. They've been quiet about everything. Who's going to be the running backs? Well, let me tell you this. They got a stable of running backs. Are they going to have a decent offensive line? You haven't heard hardly anything from the Auburn camp. That's telling me they're going to be good. You watch. They're going to be good.
Former Auburn quarterback Malik Willis, he transferred to Liberty, and he threw for over 300 yards when Liberty beat Western Kentucky at Western Kentucky this past week.
What's his name?
Malik Willis. He was a backup quarterback for Auburn.
I didn't even know. I've never even heard of him.
Yeah, he played some games.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me ask you this. Talking about quarterbacks, it was one of, right now, do we have any real serious quarterback situations?
Well, Georgia, nobody even knows who Georgia's quarterback's going to be, so I want to watch the Georgia-Arkansas game just to scout, because big games coming up. Georgia plays Auburn, I think, the next week, and then they play Alabama 2 weeks after that, so everybody's going to be interested in Georgia.
And another thing, everybody thinks Georgia is the best defense in the country, and I don't know why, they're labeling them the best defense in the country.
Yeah, so, they've got a lot of great players.
Yeah.
I see where Alabama released their depth chart, and there's 2 freshmen that are starting on defense for Alabama, pure freshmen.
Boy, that's saying
one of the outside linebacker is supposed to have been the sensation of the camp, some kid from Georgia. So Alabama lost both of their outside linebackers, and one of them is a returning junior or something, but the other one they're going, and then his backup is a freshman too, this kid from Denton, Texas. So Alabama's left outside linebacker, both first and second string guy, are pure freshmen. I was pulling for this Bo Davis. You remember him, Michael? That he's been in the program now for 5 years. 5-star prospect out of Gordo, Ben Davis.
Yeah, that's right.
His daddy was a really good player at Alabama in the 80s, Wayne Davis.
No question about it.
And he's been labeled a huge bust. But, you know, he's never transferred, never whined, stayed with the program. And for a while, it looked like he was going to have his redshirt senior year, he was going to have a chance to start, which would be really a good. But he got beat out by this freshman.
Well, let me tell you this, and it's something we didn't talk about today, but we'll talk about before the end of the week. This new rule that everybody has a red shirt and can play next year. Bo Davis really could have 2 more years to play at Alabama.
That might be great for him.
Is that the way it works, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, due to COVID, everybody gets another year.
So that's amazing that these seniors that are expected, like these quarterbacks that are coming into these programs, have 2 years instead of 1. Is that right?
Well, I mean, that's what Dylan Bradshaw was mentioning for Troy this year. I think he's a senior, but I think he's already talking about coming back next year and playing center again.
See, that is unreal. This is going to be affect a lot of people, and it's going to help a lot of people be a better football team.
It's also going to affect their budgets because the athletic departments have to pay for those scholarships.
Yeah.
And, so instead of having 85 people on scholarship, they're going to. It seems like for 1 year they're going to let them have 185 plus 25 is 110 scholarships.
Yeah. You know, like
makes you wonder about recruiting too. How recruiting will work now.
Yeah, exactly. Mike, who's got the best quarterback in the SEC?
I mean,
I'd say Trask at Florida.
Mond?
Probably Nix at Auburn. And then maybe Mac Jones or Mond.
All right, you know what we're saying is there's not many very great quarterbacks in the SEC. You name one, really.
Well, you don't know yet. I mean,
name me a great quarterback.
You wouldn't
in the
say
SEC.
that Burrow was a great quarterback going into
Yeah,
last
that's
year.
right. He was a great one.
Bo Nix is going to make a huge jump.
Bo Nix might be the best.
Mac Davis, Mac Jones. I'm sorry, got to learn these names. He might be a lot better than we think.
Yeah,
Mike Amos thinks.
That's right.
Mac Davis was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and one of the greatest movies of all time. North Dallas 40.
Hey, the guy that takes A&M, sure, he has been good, but he's so inconsistent. You don't know which one's going to show up when he plays.
Yeah, sometimes he looks spectacular, and then other times you're right, he lays an egg.
He can't throw.
Yeah.
Enough to pray him to win.
Y'all, and ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close on this in a minute. There is not, other than maybe this kid at Florida and maybe Bo Nix at Auburn, there's not any great quarterbacks in the SEC. Think about it, that are proving themselves. You know,
the transfer from Georgia that was the number 3 quarterback in the country out of high school, 5-star prospect. He might end up being pretty good.
All right, he's at Georgia now.
Yeah, they don't know if he's going to play.
Why is that?
He has a knee injury.
Oh, gosh, I didn't know that.
He had last year, and he hadn't been cleared to play.
And you know what? Arkansas, don't leave out Arkansas. They've got a chip on the shoulder of
what
anybody
about
in the
this
world.
Kentucky quarterback that everybody?
That's right.
He can throw it and he can run it. He's a dual threat.
If he's able to be, you're right. If he's able to be able to run it and throw it in this game, it's going to go down the wire. This Auburn game's going to go down the wire. But I just got a feeling Auburn's going to really score a lot of points this year.
It makes you think Vegas knows something. Boy, that line is very strange for Auburn.
I will say that Auburn has had a lot of players that have missed practice because of COVID. Not that they're positive players. It's the people that are contact tracing that could not practice for 14 days.
Yeah, no question about it. Isn't it fun? Ladies and gentlemen, we lay back, we talk back and forth. But if you listen well, it's a lot of things like that quarterback situation is not, you would normally in the SEC say, well, that's probably 5 or 10 real good quarterbacks in the SEC. There's still very few guys that you think could carry your team to a national
Everybody
championship.
from the outside looking at Troy would say, oh, they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, I listened to Mike Amos, who goes and watches half the practices, and weeks ago he said, those quarterbacks can spin the ball.
Yeah.
And I yielded to my friend here that he has seen a lot of quarterbacks, and I said, if he says they can spin the ball, they can spin the ball. Yeah. I wasn't worried about quarterback at Troy.
I've also told you we had the best set of running backs we've ever had, too.
This show is sponsored by MGM Boulder Lodge Casino Sportsbook.
Yeah, exactly.
Driving down to Biloxi, go
what the board was.
Michael, after watching the kid that transferred to Troy from Texas A&M, wouldn't you think Texas A&M had that guy back? He's a heck of a player.
I mean, he's running fourth string at Troy. He's just on goal line.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of the great one that played at Alabama, that plays for Tennessee now.
Derrick Henry?
He reminds me a lot of Derrick Henry. Think about him. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. You know, and if they put him in that sort of that tailback position and let him run the daylight, he could be tough.
Well, but like you said, there's four of them.
DJ Smith, the starter, Vidal's second string. You got a kid out of Black.
Pure freshman.
DK Billingsley, third string. You got this guy out of A&M Strong. It's probably fourth string, and then they got a kid out of Gaston.
That guy walk on from Gaston is a good player too.
Well, no, he's not a walk on. He's a scholarship player.
All right, well they got a walk on, a redshirt freshman. What I'm saying.
His name's Woods.
Yeah.
He's a scholarship player at Gaston City.
Yeah, and then they got another guy from there. You know, a lot with this new rule that these kids can come back. You're gonna see the transfer deal like you've never seen it before. Don't you agree?
Well, I'll tell you, with those many running, I mean, I'll tell the kid from Millbrook though, he's definitely gone. Or I guess he can come back too.
I don't know. He'd probably be gone. This is his fifth year.
Who are you talking about at Troy?
DJ Smith.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about him more. He had a knee injury last year. All knee injuries are bad, and he looked like his old self, wouldn't y'all say, last week?
Exactly right. We're going to have to go, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it's been a great day. Max Howell's on our show tomorrow. But, of course, we are jumping back and forth talking about football just like you're talking about football. And it's going to be fun until your daddy takes your T-Bird away. See you tomorrow.
Mustang Sally.